got that. I was like, I don't want to get one of those. Is that one?
Yeah, well, she was saying, is either these jacks or these ones for the sound.
But
I mean, maybe you could also, I mean, it's ideal.
Oh.
No,
This the only ones that not me.
Yeah. I mean, you could maybe try to hold the microphone to your computer speaker, which is not ideal. I don't know. I mean, I know.
It's super not ideal.
No, I know it's not. Well, unfortunately, our sound person, or our board person is like not. Yeah, they just took off. But, good? Okay, cool. Okay, all right. All good. So, I would like to present Dana Fisella, who will be talking about Scuttlebutt and a decentralized future. So please welcome her.
All right. Hello, people who already know about Scuttlebutt. Can people hear me in the back, by the way? Yes. Oh, good. That's beautiful. So, I'm Zana. That's my IRL AFK name. I'm the Zelf on Scuttlebutt. I have, 7 years background in digital fabrication, Fab Labs, and then I found Scuttlebutt. So now I'm a grant writer for Scuttlebutt. If anyone has a wonderful idea or a wonderful collaboration prospect, please come and talk to me after. And this is Dan. So we are holding a collaborative virtual presentation together right now. He is unfortunately probably sleeping and lives in Melbourne, Australia. So he can't attend right now. But he'll talk a little bit about himself too.
Hello, I'm Dan Hassan. I'm a white-passing descendant of Indian indenture and founder of Blockades. I'm an open-source hacker with solarpunk tendencies, active in autonomous cooperatives, blockchain research and development, and big enough data analytics.
He also made a very, 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 very long homage to the indigenous people of Australia. I do respect his message, but I did cut it out because it was like 2 minutes long. But just so you know, it's there. So, what is Scuttlebutt? Most people, at first, when they hear about it, are sorely confused about the name. With all rights, because scuttlebutt is a slang term in sailor community for water container. It's also a slang for gossip, and many of you have probably used Slack, and there's like this channel that's like a default channel, and it says like water cooler, and it's where you're supposed to gossip and talk about non-relevant things. Well, scuttlebutt is pretty much that. Many people have described it very much as the internet before the internet, or the internet back in the day. It's got a very fine community, I would say. So yeah, Scuttlebutt was created by Dominic Tarr in New Zealand, and it still has a lot of New Zealand people active in Spiral, etc. And it was created on a boat because Dominic had this need to communicate with his friends while living on a boat. So he built this protocol in order to talk to his friends. And they were like, this is pretty cool. Let's keep doing this. And Scuttlebutt spread. So yes, what Scuttlebutt really is, apart from a grandiose idea of a guy living on a boat, apart from gossip by sailors, is a gossiping protocol. Very much in the same line as DOT and IPFS. It's got the generic components, the whole version control, torrent style, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is going through the basics, but bear with me. It's not a centralized system. So there is no middleman, there's no relayer of the messages, there's only you and your peers, and it's peer-to-peer. It's more like this, which is Cryptic's network. That's an actual picture of his network. Or this, which is Andres Stalt's network. Or this, which is Mix's network. Simply put, because those were kind of messy pictures, like if we zoom in, there's actually like a 3D application and you can like roam through the multiverse and etc. We're not going to do that right now, I'm sorry. But to simplify what this is, it's your friends and you have your friends' friends. And this is something you can see and you can store. So all the data that passes by your friends, that is communicated in that network, you can see and you can store. Then you have your friends' friends' friends. So this is all the data that you can't see, but you can store. So it is on your computer. You just, unless you're using Patchbay, we'll get to that later, you can't see it. And then, of course, you have beyond. You have all the data of your friends, of your friends' friends, of your friends' friends' friends, and that's all stored on your computer. And then you have the data of your friends' 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 friends. And you don't even know that exists. It's impossible, like actually, practically impossible, for you to find any clue, any remnant of their existence, which is one of the things that makes this pretty cool. So yes, we don't know they exist, which means that right now, as far as we know, there's no duplicates, or there's no like communities islanded of their own, but that's because we don't know. And it'll continue to be that way, because we will never know when multiple communities, if they're running a mesh network with the local Scuttlebutt client, we would not know. It's early on in the phase, so probably not at this point, but if you want to be very off-grid, it's very viable, obviously. Yes. So, this was a simplification. Like, it's cool and all, but it's not quite that simple. We also have pubs. So pubs is pretty much, it's like a friend that everyone knows, except it's not actually a person. It's like a place where everyone goes and everyone gossips and everyone hears what everyone's talking about. But really, it's also a way for you to see the people that you don't know and that you don't have any connections to. So this is a gateway to the rest of the world. So you don't end up very isolated with only your friends' friends, and they don't talk about anything fun when you really only wanted to talk about mushrooms. But there is a big community of mushroom growers as well. You just have to find them. So yes, there's pubs. A great metaphor for pubs is an actual pub. So you got your friends, you got your friends' friends, and you got the pub. And at the pub, you get drunk, you get tipsy, you talk about all your friends, you talk about all your friends' friends, and you meet people who talk about their friends. And all of this data, to make this a little bit more clear, is stored in each and every one of you. So that person has all the data of everyone they're connected to in a 3-step radius, and each and every single one of them has that same amount of data, except it's from their perspective. So it's a non-consensus ledger, it's called. Basically, there's no universal consensus in regards to how we're sharing the data. Yes. Yeah. I think that's pretty clear. Do you guys understand? Oh my God. I think you understand. If not, you're slow. Okay, so there's 4 quirks to this. So there's communal data privacy, offline usability, free listening, and hardware bound. Some of these go for all the peer-to-peer protocols, .ipfs, etc., and some of them are more Scuttlebutt specific. So these are things that you would not see in a centralized network protocol. So you got communal data privacy. What I mean with that is it's impossible to see other people's data unless they're in your network proximity. This is a very, very different aspect than all the other ones that are currently mainstream. You got the offline usability. So the offline usability means that you can use Scuttlebutt completely in mesh communities without ever having to connect to like Wi-Fi, only LAN, and you can communicate freely and openly and fast and pretty easy, because it's using the version control to sync between you and your peers, but over LAN. So, yeah. Another way to do it would be if I'm not living in a mesh community, because they don't exist yet in that kind of sense with like this implementation. Then let's say I don't want to connect to Wi-Fi, but I have a friend who connects to Wi-Fi a lot. Then I connect with my friend, and my friend gives me the updates from everything that they keep getting from when they connect to Wi-Fi. So that's one way for me to stay completely off-grid, but still be connected to the outside world, because I got friends. Yes. Also over SneakerNet, so you could just share it via USB or CDs, if that's what you wish. Yeah. Then we got free listening. And free listening is a Scuttlebutt-specific quirk. Quirk. How do you pronounce that? Yeah. So free listening is basically a style that has been developed or kind of agreed upon that we've chosen to not censor people, but rather give people the freedom to choose to listen. This is rather than the top-down approach of saying you cannot speak, you can rather say, I choose not to listen. And you can see when your friends have chosen not to listen to a certain person, etc. But it's, yeah, it's a roundabout way. And then we have that it's hardware bound. So there's no passwords, there's no way to log in from anywhere else. Basically you have your device and you stick to it. And you better not lose that device, because if you lose that device, you lose your private key. That sounds pretty bad, right? So it sounds like, well, actually it happened to me like 6 months ago. Lost my computer. and lost my account. But now, actually just like 2 months ago maybe, we have dark crystal. And dark crystal is something that Dan is going to talk more about.
At the core of peer-to-peer technology is cryptography, specifically public-private key cryptography. Itself typically and often based on elliptic curve mathematics. Might interest you to know that's about lines that have been explored for the last couple of thousand years, since some bloke in Greece. Look it up online, I'm not sure. At the core of peer-to-peer technologies is the assumption that the human or machine or other entity interacting with the protocol is the sole custodian of a private key. Try and imagine something really precious, which if you lost it, you would lose access, capacity, and affordances. So I'm not talking about a passport or a bank card. Those things you can go to a central authority and you can replace them. If you lose your password to Facebook, you could go through some process such as showing them an identity card or some other identifying feature which they would determine binds to you, the human, who is the owner of that account. In peer-to-peer systems, there is no company. There's no central authority to whom you can go and jump through whatever process to regain access. So, if you lose your private key, you are screwed in P2P world. This is your digital identity, and if you lose it, you're screwed. That's very fragile. Password managers are hard. About 17% of all bitcoins which will ever be minted have statistically looked like they've been lost. If you literally can't pay people to keep this stuff secure, I think it indicates that it's a ripe problem to solve. And that's really what we've been working on with Dark Crystal. If you're a Harry Potter geek, think Horcrux. If you're not a Harry Potter geek, it's a mechanism which leverages human relationships and trust, and you weave a spell saying, of my 5 friends, let's say my mum, my dad, 2 brothers, and my best friend, as long as 3 of these people out of the 5 confirm and grant me access, then you can regain the original secret. In this case, it might be a private key, without themselves holding the shard, the piece, revealing anything to them. So it's pretty exciting. Hope that helps.
All right. So I hope you understand. Yeah? Cool. So Horcrux is from Harry Potter, a very good analogy for Dark Crystal. In general, Dark Crystal is not Scuttlebutt specific. It's in general to share any form of secrets. So it could be used for cryptocurrencies as well, if one wishes. Yes. But to move back to Scuttlebutt, how do you use Scuttlebutt in specific? So Scuttlebutt has one interface, which is the one that's the recommended one you start with. It's Patchwork. So as you might have understood by now, Scuttlebutt is also called SSB, and it's the actual protocol for things. So the interface can change, and there are a bunch of them. So we've got Patchwork, which is the most popular one. I use the dark theme. We've got the mobile client, which was released like 2 weeks ago by Andres Stoltz. And we're hoping to see that one kick off. We'll see. And we got Patchbay, which is similar to Patchwork. We've got Tic Tac, which is similar to Patchbay. not to Patchwork. And then we got more specialized applications. So some people have built chess on top of SSB, some people have built book review applications, some people have built skill sharing applications, etc. So you can build a lot of different kinds of applications. It's all based on JavaScript for now. They're talking about mitigating it or migrating it to a different one, but we'll see. And whatever application you're using, you're still connecting to the same IDs. So you're not like logging in or out of accounts. You could be, right now we're building, someone is building a way to be able to use multiple applications as once. So once you could do that, you could be on all of the applications at once, you don't have to log in, and people will still connect to you as the same person, the same ID. Yes. Welcome to the Scuttleverse. So I'll be on the local network, and if anyone's curious, wants to try it out, I'll share an invite code, or we'll try and find one. And we could all be locally connected. Yeah, thank you. That's it. So, questions? Are there any?
And to share information in a secure way, like sharing documents and media, and that you don't want to expose your identity, because this is like everything is identified with you. So if perhaps you want to send a file that you don't want to relate to your identity and propagate to your circles. Is it possible?
There have been music applications, for example, built on Scuttlebutt. My personal opinion is that Scuttlebutt is not the right protocol for file sharing specifically. There are, and I also don't think it maybe is the right protocol for building a browser on top of. It's a great gossiping protocol. It's a social protocol, and that's the baseline of it. So I would look at other protocols. I don't know .dot and IPFS as well, but IPFS seems to be a good one for file sharing. So yeah, you can. It's like possible. The metadata will still be visible, so people will still be able to see that you sent a message to someone else. And thus it's possible to kind of like piece it together, who's sending what, talking to whom. Yeah, I would say use a different protocol. Scuttlebutt is a social one. Yes.
Thank you. So I was curious if there is like a notion of, like say, like circles of people. So let's say I have a connection to Scuttlebutt, connection to my mom, one to my friends, and there is some content I only want to share with my friends, not with my mom. Is that possible, or does that everything like get addressed to all of my social network?
Currently, the only way it would be possible to limit it is by private groups-ish. And there's not full private groups as of yet. There's private groups with up to 7 people. That's like a chat, pretty much, like a email log with multiple people. And that's the only way to share specifically. I think you would actually have to make 2 separate IDs. If you really, really don't want 2 different groups of people to see it. And then not have those IDs have overlapping connections. So yeah, that's where it's at right now. Yeah. I don't know. Let me think. Yeah, that ties into the whole privacy discussion and the whole like deleting files, etc. discussion too. And we'll see where that goes. It's still unresolved.
With all those considerations in mind, what is sort of the future looking like for this protocol? I mean, given all the sort of limitations around, you know, it's kind of like connected to somebody else and they get your identity from there and things like that. Like, is there some sort of other application that you see for it in the future?
So I know this was supposed to be more about the future, but I cut it due to time. Personally, there are multiple different, like each person you ask in the community is going to give you a different answer. I know Anders Stoltz looks at it as the new Facebook. Personally, that's not at all what I wish to see. But it's nice that we have different views. So my personal view of how it could be implemented, what could be a good way for it to be implemented, is specifically in local communities. It's really, really, really a beautiful combination with a mesh network. It's a beautiful combination in areas that don't have access to Wi-Fi, have access to electricity in the same way. Dan mentioned it in or Dominic as well, how they've lived completely using Scuttlebutt only for communication in areas where they had no access to Wi-Fi or stable Wi-Fi. So it's also good, like, if you look at Asia, Africa, areas where there really isn't. Right now, Luandro in Brazil is implementing Scuttlebutt in local communities in the Amazon rainforest. And there's a few other implications like that. Also, people building emergency devices, since it can work offline in a mesh network. There's a question over here.
I think there are other people building applications on top of SSB, such as like DNSSB, which is like DNS on top of SSB. You're basically sharing your bookmark with friends. So instead of agreeing upon a like a global mapping of a domain name to a key, you're doing you're trusting your friends on what this name means. So I think that was part of the question about like what other things could be built on top of secure Scuttlebutt. Yeah.
So basically, Scuttlebutt is an implementation of a delay-tolerant network. Did I grasp that correctly? So Scuttlebutt is a delay-tolerant network, DTN? DTN, delay-tolerant network. That's a technical term for a mesh network where you locally store data, and when you have the opportunity to share the data, you synchronize it with others. Because you mentioned several times that you can use it without Wi-Fi, so I wonder how nodes interconnect. How do they find each other?
So yes, it is in a sense a delayed torrent network. Yes. Well, they don't, like if they're on a local network, they can find each other. You can't use it offline without any form of connection whatsoever. You would need like a radio connection or a Bluetooth connection or a LAN connection.
And they find each other via broadcast?
They don't broadcast their... you mean broadcast within the network that they're already in?
Yes.
Yes.
How do they find each other?
Yes, they do. So whenever I open Scuttlebutt here, I see whoever else is on as well. So it's a broadcasting, yes.
Okay. And it works globally by using the
Yes.
Ways to it. So, okay, there's like there are actually servers like nodes that you link to, from where you can find information to synchronous.
So yes, that's what we talked about with pubs previously. If I go way back into the... so yeah, those big blobs over there, that's basically servers that are a lot of the time online. Yeah, they work as nodes, big nodes. But each and every individual in the network is a node as well. Yeah. Yes.